Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today I'm really excited. I'm going to be giving you an introduction and pretty much complete overview of silver stacking. And I come from an experience of having worked in a coin shop that helps a lot of people, including some high net worth individuals, stack silver and do it at an affordable way so that they can get the most for their money, the best bang for their buck. So I've been doing that for a little over 5 years, in addition to dabbling in the hobby a little bit myself. I don't have a huge silver stack. Definitely not a enormous portion of my net worth is tied up in silver, but it's been something that I've helped a lot of other people with, and I want to help you. I think it's a great hobby to get into. Definitely a hobby that should prove to be financially a good one as well, but it's definitely enjoyable as you go along doing it. So with that being said, let's get into it. I'll be taking you through the steps, so where you're going to get the silver, what type of silver you should get, lots of considerations for how you're going to go about doing it, why you should even think about doing that. That's where we're going to start. So let's get into that part of the video. Before we get into actually how to do it, I think we should consider why you might want to be interested. And I'm not going to take a really long time to go through these things, but I think that some of the benefits of this, in addition, I do want to stress that's a fun and enjoyable process of owning silver. It's not like there's only one way to get it. That's going to be a big part of the video, is the different types, but it makes for a fun thing to do. But in addition to that, it's a way to preserve and have a store of value. It's a different asset class than a lot of the investments that people are going to make are in. It's a pretty solid hedge against hyperinflation. It's not quite as good of a hedge, I'll just be honest with you, as gold, but it does a lot better compared to other types of assets often during a downturn. Some other parts are that it's pretty involved in industry, so that's actually why it often doesn't do great in a downturn, because there's not as much demand for goods and industrial products, but it is something that we need to be using, so there's a lot of practicality in the metal. It's also something to hedge against the dollar being worthless, so you want to have things that are considered valuable. Silver is going to be one of those, especially with something like hyperinflation. And then there's also a lot of people who do it as part of a prepping or SHTF scenario preparedness, where I might think that there's various levels to how effective that would be in something like that, but that's kind of the reasons why lots of different people do it. And yeah, so I just think that's something that everybody should be at least aware of, and then they can make their decision as to how much of their portfolio they want to allocate in silver or other precious metals. Before we go along, it's also untraceable. You get the silver, you can pass it along discreetly to whoever you want, and that's a big reason that people get involved with it as well. I think the biggest question outside of should I do silver stacking that people have is what I want to buy. And the name of the game right now is, like I said before, getting the most bang for your buck and avoiding the super high premiums. I do have to say, my advice has changed in the past 6 months, but if you look at some of my videos that I made before on silver, I didn't do a ton of them, but I pretty much nailed it. I said that government bullion, I recommend it. I like it a lot because sure, you're paying some premiums when you buy the silver. When you go back to sell it, you can almost always recoup those premiums. Look what happened a few months later. $15, $16 an ounce is where we're kind of trending right now. And American Silver Eagles, if you want to buy one of them from a major retailer, that's going to cost you like $26, $27. Person to person, people are selling rolls in the $21 to $22 an ounce range for the American Silver Eagles. So that's just an example of how this video is going to change, because right now I would not be buying American Silver Eagles if I wanted to purchase silver. I think that things have shifted. So the biggest thing right now is I would probably recommend buying bars or 1 ounce third-party rounds from a trusted source. So the big problem with a bar or a American Silver Eagle, Canadian Maple Leaf, something like that, is that there might be a little bit of concerns over authenticity. But if you can buy it from a trusted source at this point, it's not worth paying $25 an ounce when silver is trading at $16 an ounce just so that you can get American Silver Eagles. A lot of their rounds are very trustworthy. You might want to look into buying like a test kit or just understanding what silver is and how to differentiate it from some other metals. But what I would say is to avoid the really high premium items and instead opt for things like those bars, but also junk silver is a really good thing to look into. In addition to offering relatively low premiums, I think that it crushes the government bullion on premiums at the moment. It's something that's very fractional. So I really would not recommend purchasing like half or quarter ounce bullion rounds of silver, because the premiums on those are astronomical even before this whole COVID crisis. Instead, you have something like dimes, silver US or quarters or dimes. You can break those up almost infinitely, and you're still not going to be losing out on the premiums. So that's what a lot of people like those denominations for. They're inherently really easy to get down to very specific amounts of silver, but you don't have to pay up for that flexibility. Additionally, there are a lot of kind of second tier, tier 2 types of silver government rounds. Like what comes to mind is Austrian Philharmonics, the British Britannias, South African Krugerrands. There's also Australia stuff, and that sort of thing is great, but I think that just the premiums, again, don't justify purchasing that at the moment. There's also a couple of other types of silver that I wouldn't recommend as a stacker, and that's the big thing, is I want to differentiate collecting coins from silver stacking. There's a lot of things that you can buy. Some of those include proof silver, so proof silver eagles. Again, coming from a coin shop, that's one of the biggest things. We see people getting sold these graded bullion coins or these proof bullion coins, and they're just wanting to invest in the silver. The markups before this were crazy, and now they're even worse. So that's something that you want to avoid if you're going to get into it from a silver stacking only perspective. You can even do some collecting within junk or constitutional 90% silver purchases. Specifically the Franklin half dollars set, that comes to mind as a really easy one to collect. The Washington quarters outside of the 1932D and 32S key dates, they're also very low premium. Roosevelt dimes, you can do the whole thing and there's no real key dates there. So you can do some collecting, but you want to keep the premiums as low as possible. Also in that vein are some of the poured art bars or rare bullion that, there's some bullion. There was one thing that we sold for $700. It was 5 ounces, but it was a rare Engelhard bar. So that's a different type of investment than, what I'm talking about, which is just trying to play the silver market. That also includes things like Morgan and Peace dollars. The markups on those are significant, and they don't really include the actual silver value, which is like something like 0.76 of an ounce, or just generic world silver coinage. So coinage from all around the world, often the premiums on that are going to be pretty high, and if they're not, when you go to sell that, it'll be more challenging. There's always going to be demand for US junk silver. That's not the case. Even, Canadian silver, 80%, that's something that I've had some success selling and buying, but even that, it's a little tougher to do. Obviously, a lot of the lower percentage, like 50%, the attractiveness of that, or like 40% Kennedy half dollars from 65 to 70, I'd probably avoid investing in those just from the junk silver perspective, though right now I guess the premiums have not really done too much, so that could be a solid play. But just to hammer home this point, I'm not advocating that you should or shouldn't invest in coins, but that should be something that's clearly separate from silver stacking. The next thing is that there's 4 ways to buy silver. I'm going to go through each one of them and offer some commentary. The first one is person to person. There's some good advantages about this. Often you're going to not have to pay quite as much. You're going to get the best for your deal, but you have the highest chance of getting ripped off or somebody selling you bad silver or that sort of thing. If you're doing it online, they might take your money and not send. So there's a lot more risk with person-to-person selling, especially when that's online, but you can often get the best price. The next way would be through one of the major bullion dealers. I think that can be a good opportunity and option for people who probably don't want to drive somewhere just to a coin shop and do something complicated. They can get it shipped right to their door. It'll definitely be good silver. That's the biggest thing that I can emphasize here with online dealers. I personally have a sponsored link, sdbullion.com/TT. If you purchase from that and click on my link, access the site through my link, and then purchase any item on the site, it'll give me a great financial reward. So I'd appreciate you using that, but I also only want you to use that if it's a good idea. Right now the premiums are a little bit high, but when prices settle, I'd really appreciate if you could keep me in mind when you're going to purchase silver. Different sites do it different ways. SD Bullion's claim is that they're always going to be the lowest player, and that was certainly true before the coronavirus epidemic. Now I look at the prices, and sure, they're definitely undercutting APMEX, which is generally the biggest, but there's a few silver places that are pretty competitive with their rates. But the benefit of one of these major online big time bullion dealers is that you're going to get reliable, good, 100% guaranteed solid silver. Third is coin shops or local dealers. And these are a little bit of a step up from the person to person. You might have to encounter slightly higher premiums because these are businesses, but they have some pretty good connections. I know a few weeks ago we were able to help somebody who wanted to make a big silver purchase. And I don't know, I'm not the owner of the shop. I actually don't know where we sourced it from, but we were able to go way under what the online retailers were trying to get. So, and we were able to still get some profit. So that's just something to think about if you have a coin shop, especially one that you trust, that mitigates a lot of the risk of person-to-person selling and often can get a better deal than the online. Though you do have to go in person, and that can be a bit of a hassle. Fourth is to buy paper silver or buy online shares. That's not what I recommend. I think that a big important part of it is to actually own the silver physically. There's some people, I think most of these places actually do have the silver if they needed it, but there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of the attractiveness in owning an asset like silver is that it's a physical product. It's not just something like real estate or a stock that's tough to sell quickly if you need it, and you want to be able to take this stuff with you where you're going. So that's a big reason people like precious metals. You're kind of pushing that all away by buying paper silver. Though the upside, I do have to say, is that like silver was $12 an ounce, and if you did a big silver play then, you probably did pretty well, and you could sell that silver shares without owning it. So that might be the lowest risk in terms of, are you going to get ripped off, that sort of thing, but you're just missing out on a lot of the advantages that people associate silver with having. Another important thing is, how are you going to be storing the silver? The biggest thing is, the storage is one thing, but you really just don't want to tell people that you have the silver to begin with. That's one thing that I have an advantage of working in a coin shop. Instead of, that's why I feel comfortable showing my face instead of, showing some people have enormous silver stacks that they can just lay out on the video. That's not my case. I've got a monster box right there. That one's empty. I don't have the 500 ounces of silver that goes with that. And the fact of the matter is, it's more about not telling people that you have this, because then those people, they might not even mean to, but somebody knows that you have the silver, then you get robbed. That's a horrible situation to put yourself in, but I think the best thing is keeping it secret. Now, once you make that step, I think a good way to do it is look into a safe. That's something that I'm not as involved with in the coin shop, but I think a lot of this stuff is making sure that you're not telling people and advertising that you have the silver in the first place. With that being said, you don't want to throw your coins around. I know that really beat up American Silver Eagles command a much lower premium for whatever reason than good looking, fresh, beautiful, uncirculated coins that look like they just got delivered, dropped off from the mint. So you want to be, the same thing with bars, all these things. You want to be careful with how you treat the coins. Not great to have them all in a bag. If you have the original roll, keep them in that. If you can, put them in a capsule if you don't have a roll, or a good way of storing it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Now, one thing that I think a lot of the intro to silver stacking things miss out on is telling people that this is not a surefire way to make money. It's something that I think is a good hedge. Again, I think you should have a small amount of your worth in it. It's really fun to collect, hold the silver in your hand. A lot of people can enjoy the hobby because it does offer some more fun as opposed to just holding your money in stocks. So that's kind of part of it. But what I'm saying is, it's not guaranteed that this stuff is going to 50, 100, 500 bucks an ounce. There's a lot of people that are always going to try to sell you that and then sell you some products along with it. I think that's just something good to consider, to know how to do, and if you want to do it, then you can do it. This video is probably going to be like 10 to 20 minutes, learning the basics, learning why you'd want to do it, and learning how to do it. And I'll go over at the end like a very basic step-by-step thing that I just want you to remember is kind of important to do. Pretty much going along with that as kind of another random tip, you don't want to overinvest. The thing is that silver doesn't pay dividends. You're really just buying something and you hope that you can sell it later or you can pass it down to future generations. It's not something like a company where there's a lot of potential for, if you buy Facebook when it's starting out, or Amazon or these other things, enormous potential. You're owning part of a company. You're really just owning a commodity. So I think that that's something important that you should realize about it. I think it's very, very a tough thing to advocate for, owning 100%. Even if silver, shoots up to $100 an ounce, that would be great. But I don't think that the potential of that outweighs the risks of missing other sorts of things that could go on. It is just silver after all. So let's wrap things up. This pretty much concludes my video, but if I had to say a guess, is that you want to be between 1 and 15 or 20% at the highest of your overall in precious metals, which can include silver in your portfolio. You want to stack at the moment with, I like constitutional 90% US silver or trusted silver bars. Once premiums go back down in the long run as supply catches back up, I think that government bullion, specifically American Silver Eagles and silver maple leafs, are good plays. And I think that you want to avoid the really high premium numismatic or coin collector item type things, and just stick to the basics. Don't tell people that you have it, and enjoy. I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts on silver so that other people can see them and open that dialogue. And I hope that you're staying safe and staying healthy in the current situation. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more content, and get in touch with me or contact on treasuretown.yt.com, my website, my Facebook, Treasuretown, my Twitter, @treasuretown_YT, or my Instagram, @treasuretown_YT. Looking forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.